Tears welled up in his eyes. I don't know who this donor is, but I owe them my life. Alina blinked back tears. Some debts can never be repaid, Abu. He squeezed her hand gently. When I recover, I want to meet this angel. Alina bit her lip, her heart aching. You already know them, Abu. You just don't realize it yet. The day had arrived. Alina was dressed in a hospital gown, lying on a gurney, ready to be wheeled into the operation theater. The air was heavy with tension, emotions running high. Her mother sat beside her, tears streaming down her face. Alina, last chance, please reconsider. Alina smiled, brushing her mother's tears away. Emmy, you always told me that daughters are blessings. Let me be that blessing today. Her mother sobbed, kissing her forehead. Mary John, my child. The doors of the operation theater swung open. Alina was taken inside. Her brothers? They were nowhere to be seen. As the doors closed behind her, Alina took a deep breath. She had no regrets. The bright overhead lights of the operation theater flickered against the cold steel of the surgical instruments. A team of doctors and nurses moved swiftly, preparing for the delicate procedure. 2 beds stood side by side, one occupied by Alina, the other by her unconscious father, Haji Karim. Alina lay still, her heart hammering in her chest. She wasn't scared for herself, only for her father. Would the transplant be successful? Would he get a second chance at life? These were the only thoughts racing through her mind. A nurse leaned over her, adjusting the floor. Are you comfortable, dear? Alina nodded, forcing a smile. Just make sure my father wakes up healthy. The nurse patted her hand gently. You're a brave girl. Not everyone can do what you're doing. Brave. Alina had never thought of herself that way. In her family, she had always been invisible, just the daughter in a house full of sons. But today, she wasn't just Alina. She was the one saving her father's life. As the anesthetic coursed through her veins, her eyelids grew heavy. The last thing she saw was the blurred image of a doctor leaning over her, whispering reassuring words. And then darkness. Outside the operating room, Farida paced the floor restlessly, whispering prayers under her breath. Every few seconds, she glanced at the large doors, waiting, hoping, to see a doctor emerge with good news. But the ones who should have been the most concerned, her 5 sons, were nowhere to be seen. They had left. After signing a few papers, they had walked away, muttering excuses about important meetings, business calls, and tight schedules. To them, their father's surgery was just another inconvenience in their busy lives. Farida clenched her fists. How could they be so heartless? She pulled out her phone and called Amir, her eldest son. He answered on the second ring, his voice indifferent. Emmy, what is it? I'm at a meeting. Your father is in surgery, and Alina. Her voice cracked. She's in there too. She might not make it. Amir sighed impatiently. Emmy, stop being dramatic. It's just a kidney. She'll be fine. And what if she isn't? Farida snapped. What if something happens to her? Amir didn't respond right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold. We didn't ask her to do this. It was her choice. Farida felt her heart shatter. She's doing what you all should have done. She's giving away a part of herself to save your father. And you. She choked on her words. You don't even care. Amir exhaled loudly. Look, Emmy, I have to go. Let me know when Abba wakes up. And with that, he hung up. Farida stared at the screen, her hand shaking with rage. How did I raise such sons? Where did I go wrong? Inside the operating room, The doctors worked with quiet precision. Alina's body lay still, her heartbeat steady but weak. Her small frame looked fragile under the bright lights, and for the first time, the surgeons felt the weight of what she was sacrificing. One of the doctors glanced at his colleague. "She's so young, she shouldn't have to do this." The lead surgeon, a man with years of experience, sighed. "Sometimes, the ones who love the most are the ones who pay the highest price." Hours passed. The transplant was a success. Haji Karim's body accepted Alina's kidney. But something was wrong. As the team finished the procedure, Alina's heart rate suddenly dropped. A loud beeping sound filled the room. Her blood pressure plummeted. Her breathing slowed. The doctors scrambled into action. "She's crashing. We need to stabilize her now." A nurse rushed to inject emergency medication, but Alina's vitals continued to decline. The lead surgeon's face darkened. "Her other kidney isn't handling the strain. She's going into renal failure." The words hung heavy in the air. A nurse clutched her chest. "Dear God, she gave away the only healthy kidney she had." The team fought for Alina's life. They tried everything, but her fragile body was giving up. And then, the long, steady beat filled the room. Flatline. The heart monitor displayed a single, unbroken line. The doctors exchanged silent looks. The battle was over. Alina was gone. Hours later, Haji Karim slowly opened his eyes. He felt different, stronger. The pain that had plagued his body for months was gone. His wife's tear-streaked face appeared above him. "Farida!" His voice was hoarse. "What happened?" Farida tried to smile, but her lips trembled. "You're fine, Karim. The surgery, it worked." A small frown appeared on his forehead. "Who was the donor?" Silence. His fingers tightened around her hand. "Farida, tell me. Who gave me their kidney?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. She glanced at the door, where a nurse stood with red-rimmed eyes. Behind her, a white sheet covered a lifeless body. Haji Karim's stomach twisted with dread. "Alina!" Farida let out a broken sob. "She's gone, Karim!" The words didn't make sense. His Alina? His little girl? Gone? His world tilted. The reality hit him like a blow to the chest. The daughter he had always overlooked. The child he had never valued like his sons. The one who had been treated like an afterthought. She was the one who saved him. And she paid for it with her life. A scream tore from his throat, a sound of raw agony. And for the first time in his life, Haji Karim, a man who had never shed a tear for his daughter, sobbed like a child. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and despair. The rhythmic beeping of monitors echoed in the sterile room, where Haji Karim lay weak and frail on the hospital bed. His face was pale, his body fragile, and his breathing labored. His eyes barely opened. His wife, Farida, sat beside him, hands trembling as she clutched his fingers, her eyes red with silent prayers. A doctor entered, holding a file, his expression grim. He sighed before speaking. "Mr. Karim's kidneys have failed. Without an urgent transplant, he won't survive much longer." A chilling silence fell over the room. One by one, the 5 sons exchanged uneasy glances. Each of their faces displayed hesitation and discomfort. The eldest son, Amir, cleared his throat. "Doctor, isn't there any other option? Maybe medication?" The doctor shook his head. "A transplant is the only way. A close family member would be the best donor." The second son, Rayhan, scoffed. "Surgery is risky. I can't take that chance." The third son, Omar, shrugged. "Even if we do it, how many years will he even live? He's already old. Farida's heart clenched. These were the same sons Kareem had worked day and night for. The same sons who had been the center of his world. And now, when it was their turn to sacrifice, they turned away. She glared at them, her voice trembling. Your father gave you everything, and now you won't even consider saving his life? Amir sighed. Amy, don't be emotional. We have families to think about. We can't risk our health. A sob broke from Farida's lips. Shame on all of you. He's your father. In the corner of the room stood Alina, the youngest child. The only daughter. The one always overlooked, always in the background. She had always known she was not the favorite. The love, the pride, the attention, everything had been for the sons. But today, as she watched her brother step back, something inside her ignited. With steady steps, she walked forward, her voice unwavering. Doctor, take my kidney. I'll save my father. The room fell silent. Eyes widened. Her mother gasped, grabbing her wrist. Alina, no! You're a girl. Your life, your future. Don't throw it away. But Alina's eyes remained firm. Amy, what's the point of my life if I let my father die? The brothers didn't protest. They didn't argue. They simply stood in cold silence, unwilling to sacrifice even a part of themselves. And so, Alina made her choice. A choice that would change everything. The tension in the hospital room was suffocating. Alina's words still echoed in the silence. Doctor, take my kidney. I'll save my father. Her mother, Farida, gripped her wrist tightly, her eyes pleading. Alina, don't do this. You're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. Alina smiled softly, but there was steel in her voice. And what about Abba's life, Amy? Doesn't he deserve to live? Her brother stood there, avoiding her gaze. Amir pulled out his phone, scrolling as if the conversation didn't concern him. Rayhan folded his arms and sighed. You're making this dramatic, Alina. We're just being practical. Omar added. We love Abu, but risking our health isn't the solution. You're being reckless. Alina turned to them, her expression unreadable. Reckless? You think love is about calculations and risks? He's sacrificed his whole life for us. But now, when he needs us, you all turn away. No one responded. Their silence was more painful than words. The doctor cleared his throat, looking at Alina. We'll need to run tests to confirm compatibility. Are you sure about this? Alina nodded without hesitation. Yes. Do whatever is needed. Farida collapsed onto the chair, shaking her head. Ya Allah, my Alina, my daughter, what have I done to deserve such a cruel test? The next few days were a blur of tests, scans, and evaluations. Alina endured every needle, every scan, every sleepless night without a single complaint. Each time she saw her father, weak and helpless in his hospital bed, she knew she had made the right decision. Finally, the doctor confirmed it. Alina was a perfect match. The transplant was scheduled. The night before the surgery. That night, Alina sat by her father's bedside. He was still unaware of what was about to happen. The doctors had advised against stressing him out, so he remained in the dark, thinking a donor had been found. Haji Kareem reached out, weakly grasping Alina's hand. His fingers, once strong and callous from years of hard work, now trembled. Beta, the doctors say I have hope. Alina forced a smile. Yes, Abu. You'll be fine.